Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Experience podcast, where I bring all the dope entrepreneurs together. And today I'm really bringing them together. Ooh, I'm juice. Listen, okay, I'm trying something new. So y'all really want to subscribe and like and share these videos because you're going to be entertained. Are you not entertained? I'm doing a group discussion. I got 4 people here. I mean, well, 3 people, including me. That makes 4. But I got 3 other entrepreneurs here with me, and we're going to have a dope conversation. Y'all want to go around, introduce yourself? You want to tell who y'all are? We'll start with you, ladies, first.
All right. My name is Principal Dari. I am an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 3 years. Currently on sabbatical a little bit, focusing on my 9 to 5, where I'm a principal of a high school.
Cool.
Welcome, Principal Dar. Coach Frank Clayton here, Accelerated Results Coaching. Been an entrepreneur for 15 plus years. Excited about all the new ventures. And man, thank you for having me back, bro.
Yeah, first time. He's the first time repeater on here. So yeah, cool. I'm glad to have you back. And then we have, the guy. If you guys watch the podcast, you always hear me say, Cam. We have Cam. Hey Cam, how you doing? Yeah, he's like
Talent and producer.
You feel me? He's on it, a guest, and he's like managing it all in one. So in this rebranding phase that I'm going through, and as a podcaster, I'm trying to find my way. And one of the things that I really want to do is like start having more group discussions. I still want to interview people one-on-one, but I want to start having like group discussions about entrepreneurship because we go through a lot. And I think that hearing the opinions of others, the opinions and then just their view and take, and their experience is really brings on the experience, the Entrepreneur Experience podcast, right? So today, the topic that I really want to talk about is like losing friends. You can't take everybody with you. Everybody is not allowed to go with you on this journey, and that may seem harsh, but the reality. Have you guys ever experienced that? Like, let's just look, man. We face first. You know what I mean? What's up? Have y'all ever experienced that? Tell me. What do you think? Or what are your thoughts on losing friends? Let me ask that first.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, I think you always gonna go through transitions. And we can talk about this a little later, but sometimes you lose friends, but sometimes you're the friend that's lost, which is a cold game about it. And like, how do you navigate both of those spaces? I've been both.
Yeah.
And neither one feels good when it's happening. But it's been friends that disconnected, and then we've caught up with each other.
Yeah.
At a different space.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely rough. From my perspective, I don't think you ever really lose friends. Y'all just might be in a different space where y'all not as connected as much as y'all.
Okay.
Man, I took some big L's during my entrepreneurship journey. 2 pretty much back to back. One was my best friend, and then one was my husband at the time. And I think overall, like, life isn't linear. People go through ups and downs. Things change. And there were some situations where I was no longer of service to my friend, and they made the cut. And in the other situation, it was this other thing was no longer in service for me. But it can be a challenge to, like, identify that and be able to move forward. That shit was hard.
Do you think that you ready to talk, or are you still like Cam?
I'm still messing with stuff.
Still messing with stuff.
The producer struggle.
Dang, man, he playing with himself on camera. That's crazy. Do you think that in the loss of that, right, that happened because of entrepreneurship or just because of life?
I think it was life. For the friendship, from entrepreneurship, I would say contributed to the marriage part.
Yep.
I got married young and centered my 20s around being a mom and a wife. and entrepreneurship gave me confidence and surrounded me around other things that I was just like, oh yeah, this relationship is not serving me.
Yeah.
This I can't progress in this situation. So I would say it opened my eyes to
Okay.
something that life was going to bring me. God was going to show it to me in some type of way. It just happened to be through entrepreneurship.
What about you, Frank?
Uh,
So my thing, do you think that in the journey that it happened because of entrepreneurship or just because of?
No, I think definitely, entrepreneurship. For just an example, right? Got a really good friend, really dope entrepreneur. Shout out to Damn Sports Fitness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just a dynamic business person, right? And there's periods where we're really close, and there's periods where that I don't hear from him, right? And vice versa. But I think, again, that's why I feel like if you really are solid in your friends, that you don't lose friends. You go through periods where, and you got to have these type of friends that don't take your isolation personally, right? And so that when you are an entrepreneur, y'all know it's times when you dug in,
Yeah.
and nobody can find you, and you really rocking, and sometimes you popping out and you showing this is what I've been working on.
What I've been doing.
And so not to take that, not answering phone calls or things like that personally is really important. You got to have those type of people in your circle.
Yeah.
Okay. We hear this debate a lot, right? And I want to ask y'all this. We hear people on social media talk about like their friends and family not supporting it. And then they feel some type of way about not getting that support.
Let's talk about
Their
it.
friends and family.
Talk about
Like,
it.
Yeah.
what do you guys take on that? How do you feel about that? Because I'm like on the cusp of it. Like I understand it. But I mean, also, I'll give my opinion first and then y'all can say yours. Like, I think people who feels that way don't understand like their target audience. And that's my thing, right? Your family, your friends is not your target audience.
Yeah.
One aspect. The other aspect is your family and friends are seeing you start and stop and they don't know when to take your ass serious. Right?
Facts.
That's a big one.
And then the third part is that it's like you want the support from your family and friends, or you want the support of the masses? Because if only your family and friends supported you, would you be able to survive?
Yeah.
Most likely not. You need the support of the masses, so you need to quit focusing on the family and friends and focus on how you can reach more people. So those are like my 3 takes on that subject. But I want to talk to y'all. What do you feel about it, about that topic? And like, let's have a little conversation about that.
So, sorry, I was adjusting equipment. But I say for me, it's hard, especially because like I'm still in the military, and like no one's in the military is buying podcast services. Like no one's buying business optimization services. Like no one in the military is at all a client of mine. And like, so a lot of my friend base was based off of that initially. And so now I'm at a point where that's now shifting. Right.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing because people also wonder like, how are you doing it? Or like the time basis, like all those things. And, to the previous question with the friends too, is like, I feel like people, you don't lose friends. It just manifests in a different way, right?
Sure.
Instead of y'all talking on the phone or texting, it might just be like a like on a comment. Like that's their little show of support. And y'all may not be necessarily like friends like you were, but it doesn't mean that you're enemies, right? Like, what does it say? Just because we're not friends anymore, it doesn't mean I now have an enemy at your table.
Right.
And so I would say it's hard for a lot of people because they think that based off their family and friends, they're automatically going to be successful. But like you said, that's not your target audience.
Right.
And that's what a lot of people aren't doing is they're not identifying their target audience. They're not taking the time to sit down and be like,
For sure.
who is it like we even Glenn would talk about it. Like, hey, our target audience is not 20 years old. It's usually 30 plus who have children, who have a business or a job, who have at least 2 social medias, like macroness, right?
For sure.
But nowadays we're so big at like general things that people get it twisted.
Okay.
So very, very early in my adulthood, I learned to have boundaries, right?
Yeah.
Working with kids when you're 21, you have to have boundaries.
For sure.
Especially when you run into them at the liquor store and crazy stuff like that. And so for me, when I started my entrepreneurship journey, a part of the boundaries was like, this ain't for my family, nor is it for my friends.
Yeah.
So support for me meant if I have an event and I need to use your camera, Mom, I'm going out of town. Let me borrow this thing. Can you help me with the kids? Support is the things that I would expect you to do as a family member anyway.
For sure.
But not necessarily are you purchasing for me, because that's my bound. Like that's not the lane you're supposed to be in. Now, when you make new friends, that Shift Cam was talking about, and now we business friends, and I comb my locks out, the first person I'm going to is Jazz, because you already in my community, right? If I need a service, I'm going to my friends who provide that service, because to me,
or you should be at least,
right? To me, like I don't believe in you if I don't go to you and you offer, or you out of my price range. But if you out of my price range, I'm gonna tell you, I can't afford you. I'm gonna refer you to somebody. So I think when you start to make friends that are kind of like in the business world, I think there should never be an expectation. But I think that's the only time it makes sense to like your friends supporting you.
So we focus on the new friends, because the new friends are as an entrepreneur, the new friends are usually other entrepreneurs, right? More so of friends that's going along the same path as you.
Yes.
So like now the support start happening. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, and I think of it, right, and one, I don't want a bunch of, in my business, I don't want a bunch of friends and family as clients, right? It's almost frowned upon in the kind of work and coaching I do. But there is a saying that it's easier to make a client a friend than a friend a client, right?
Yes.
So I kind of approach it in that aspect. But to Dari's point, it's like there's other ways to support without being a customer.
Yeah.
And so as a friend, and I want to go back and we can define friends, because that's a whole other thing there, right? Family can't really, but friends you can define. But yeah, there's other ways to kind of support the vision, even like that hey man, this service looks like this, that or the other, or it could be this, that, and the other, is a form of support. Not everybody's ready to receive that, but that's a form of support, even giving some critique or some some evaluation of what you see.
Okay. I like that, but what if, devil's advocate,
Here we go.
Right.
Your family and friend like actually pay somebody for the service that you do. You fitness, right?
Right.
And I'm your auntie, I'm your cousin, and I want to get a fitness trainer, and I don't go to you. Or I'm about to start a podcast, and I'm like, oh yeah, my cousin Cam got it, but I'm gonna go to this person over here.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel some type of way that they're going to hire someone to do the service that you do, but they go to somebody else and not you?
I think again, if you're young in entrepreneurship, I can see how you can definitely feel some way. I would feel some way. I have felt some way, but I've been doing this long enough to understand that the dynamic and relationship that you have with people, not everybody sees you how other customers sees you.
Yeah.
And so you just got to accept that. And, the way, like, if you've been married, this too. Like, just if you've been married or have kids or just close friendships, relationships, you can say something. And somebody will say the exact same thing.
Yep.
The exact same way you said it. And they would right, and they won't receive it, and then somebody says it on YouTube or over here, and it's like that's gospel. Yeah, and you just got to kind of take it like that. People, what's for you is for you, and nobody can change that, friend, family, or foe.
I think that people have I think a lot of people that join the entrepreneur scene don't think about their friends and family seeing them fuck up. Like I've watched you fuck up a lot. And because of that, like I don't trust you as much, right? Or I've seen your ups and downs and ebbs and flows, and so it's just like I'm not really rocking with you like that because I haven't seen you take yourself as serious as you should. So I'd rather go to somebody else that's taking themselves more serious, right? versus
So you
someone. So you right,
Right.
versus someone who's just now meeting you,
Right.
and all they see is this is who you are and this is what you do.
It's like, why you so thirsty for your family to support you? Sometimes you don't need that.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes they don't have boundaries. Like, even in my profession, when somebody who I know, kid, or I'm related to, kid, comes to my school, it's like, oh, damn. Now they think they can talk to me about this whenever they gonna call my
They be like,
personal
hey,
phone.
Dar, you're like, wait, hold up.
They gonna be, like, they calling me during break. So sometimes you don't need those people who are as close to you to be your customers. And I think only new entrepreneurs really trip off this because you're like, they're not helping me make money. You don't want them in
You don't
your
even want them as
space,
a client
coming
anyway.
late. Now your sister coming to the hair appointment late and she wants you to do, no.
Gotta fill that invoice.
Sometimes you really need those boundaries on like you are family and
Yeah.
support me in a way that makes sense for family. But
I think it's important to be transparent, like the communication. So like I have people who are friends, family, who work with me. And I made it clear at the very beginning, I don't care who you are. Mom, brother, sister, best friend, whatever. Like if I give you a task and you say you're gonna do it,
Right.
you will do it. And
Yeah.
I will hold you accountable to doing it.
Right.
And but I expect the same thing back, right?
Yep.
If I tell you I'm gonna give you something cool, a lot of people aren't adult enough to accept that conversation from someone they're close to. They can't like separate it, right? Like I tell people all the time, like, yo, business. You know, I sent him like a meme the other day. It was joking. It was the snow from Snowfall. He's like slapping somebody. He's like, business. That's what it is, and it's okay.
Yeah,
like that's
for
what
sure.
that's what we're doing, right? So I think it's healthy to have that conversation.
Yeah. As an entrepreneur, we do like lose people. Why do y'all think so? Like in losing friends, is it jealousy? Is it like just time constraints, different paths, combination of it all? Like, what do you think? Because people can be jealous. People can. Okay, let me say this. We had a conversation not too long ago about like people having friends or being friends and they never talk about the end goal, right? Okay, so I'll use me and you, Dari, as an example. Okay, wait, I'll wait because I feel I'm talking about two different things. Let's talk. Let me ask this first question.
Okay.
Losing friends, jealousy, time, just different paths. Like, what does that look like as an entrepreneur? Because some people may be new entrepreneurs and they just don't understand. Like we were friends and now you're not my friend no more. What is that dynamic?
I'll let you.
it's hard because like my stylist asked me this: what makes them your friend, and what makes them not your friend? So it's hard to like friendship is so hard to gauge like when the loss happens sometimes unless a person literally cuts you off. But there's always something underlying. And like, yeah, people get jealous. Like you don't have the time for me. So like some friends rely on their friend for emotional support. We talk all the time. Some people rely on their friends for we outside all the time or we do this thing together.
Right.
And so when you take that away, if the friendship is fragile, it's going to go away. Right? So just think about us. We started a business together. My life was in fucking chaos and I disappeared. Our friendship did not disappear despite the fact that I absolutely disappeared in the middle of a business.
That's just because
Right.
I'm such a good friend.
Our friendship wasn't fragile. Our friendship wasn't fragile, right? Because our friendship didn't depend on that business relationship.
For sure.
We interacted in so many other ways that we were able to pick up in other avenues and then re-enter. So I think when you have friendships that are reliant on certain things and those things go away, the friendship can go away.
For sure.
But if you have something that's layered, it's not as easy for it to go away.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, you got to know, like, once you label people or you put them in appropriate boxes, and this is where I was going earlier
Yeah.
with the idea of friend, and why I feel you don't really lose friends. Y'all might fall out or whatever. But a lot of people who we consider friends in this entrepreneur space are either acquaintances or associates.
Yeah.
And like y'all had a true friendship,
Mhm.
right? So it was beyond the business. If y'all was acquaintances, you would probably feel some type of way. She dipped. She probably would feel some type of way about even bringing that situation to you. I may never even talk about it. But friendship is like I invest in you as a person. Like your well-being matters
Yeah.
to me. And so I just think really identifying people and putting them in the proper place and perspective helps us on this entrepreneur journey. Because if you dip on me and you an acquaintance, okay, you're an acquaintance. I didn't expect for you
Yeah.
to be my friend.
Yeah.
And when I was going through something, I didn't expect you to show up. Now I don't have this expectation that, oh, you ditched me or whatever, right? Because you're an acquaintance. And so, and I don't, for me, I don't love you any less, whether you're a friend, you're an acquaintance, you're an associate.
Yeah.
It just helps me understand my expectation for you,
Yeah.
not your expectation for
Yeah.
me, and so that I can move appropriately.
Yeah. I have a
Sure.
friend where you were talking about earlier about like, if we don't talk very often. I have a friend who like, I don't talk to him 4 months at a time.
Right.
And people are like, oh, how's he doing? I'm like, oh, he's in his zone. And he
Yeah.
calls me in 4 months. We have our check and he's like, all right, I'm going back in my zone. And I'm like, cool, talk to you later. And he's like, I love that. Like, I just never have to worry about you being in your feelings that we don't talk. And I'm like, dude, I've known you 18 years.
Sure.
I know that when you're in your mode, I'll pop in and say what's up. And after about 5, hope you're doing well, love you, whatever, I know then you will call me.
Yeah.
And then if I hit you, like call you twice, I know you'll call me back right away because you know it's serious.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, it's not about you, it's about them, right? Like, how do they communicate?
I think that you said something great, Frank. Expectation.
Yeah.
People have unrealistic expectations of like friends and
For sure.
like, relationships and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So it's like you're expecting these things from me, but also you never communicated or we never talked about it.
Right.
You just have this expectations in your own head that was never even communicated to me. So now you mad at me because I didn't meet those expectations as a friend, but we actually never even fucking discussed
Usually based
them.
off social
Right.
media TikToks.
Yeah. Right? Like you
I didn't know you
judging
wanted
my,
that.
Yeah, you judging my friendship off of me.
Right.
Like,
Or it's just
fucking
that's not what
crazy.
I want to do. Like I had
Right.
a friend, she wanted to talk on the phone all the time, and at that time, I'm like, girl, I want to talk to you every day.
Yeah.
Like that's just not. So it just
Right.
didn't match up, and we had to come to an understanding. So that communication is hella important.
But success as an entrepreneur can really create jealousy,
Yep.
right? Some people can have the dream of like wanting to do something that you did, but they didn't have the courage to do it. But you stepped out and did it, and so now you're doing shit that they only wish that they can do, and that can create jealousy to make people not want to be your friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Have y'all ever experienced anything like that?
I'm gonna plead the fifth.
Oh man, that ain't what we do around here.
Plead
This
the
Tell
ain't
us the
wild.
No,
tea.
I really,
Tell us
I
the
really,
tea.
I
Circle
really
friend.
never lost a friend because of something I've done successful. I've experienced situations that I believe a person or people have felt some type of way. You know, sometimes people feel some type of way when other people feel a way about you that they may not necessarily feel about you at the time. And so, yeah, definitely from that perspective, but never like, man, you over there killing it. Now I'm hating on you, or, you know, I can't rock with you because you think you better than me type. I think that's more so. We see that more often than not. Like, you think you better now, or you've changed, or you've gotten up here.
Yeah.
And it's been like, man, we had the same opportunity, right? You come along, or, you know, like, how can we get you to where you want to be? But I think that sometimes that's conscious and sometimes that's really subconscious of folks. And you see it all the time. But personally, none of my friends I've never experienced that with who I consider a friend.
It's happened to me. In this journey as an entrepreneur, I've always tried to like find partners. I don't want to do this shit alone.
Right.
Right. And so I always try to find people to work with. I don't know everything, so it's always trying to fill the gaps of what I don't know. Or like you guys were here earlier when I was talking to my guest earlier, I'm like, you're dope. We can work together. You have something that like, I'm just that type of person. I had a mentor who taught me a lot. And he was a great mentor, and we still cool. But he taught me some shit. I executed and did really well.
Right. Right.
He then treated me differently because I start doing well on the things that he taught me.
Mm.
And it strained our friendship because it's like I gave an idea. He didn't want to do the idea, but he gave me the opportunity to execute the idea. And he didn't think that
you would
I
do
was
it.
going to be successful at doing it. I then do it and become really successful. And then it was like, well, why you didn't do that for me?
But first of all, I'm over here like, oh, I think I know who you talking about. That's why I'm making all these faces. I think I know who you talking about, and that if it's that situation, like that person was hella jealous, because they didn't have the courage to just jump off the porch and try it.
Yeah.
And I find in jealousy, like it's never about you; it's always about the other person.
Oh yeah.
Always about the other person. And it's unfortunate when they say or do things that is hurtful. You can be jealous of me in private all the hell you want. You don't have to act on that in a negative way or send bad energy my way or cut me off. It's when you do that it becomes a problem.
Yeah. It hurt. It really hurt me because it was like someone I really looked up to and someone that I really did like admire. Like if he called me, I'll jump. Right? Because it was somebody that taught me a lot and put me in good positions. And so it was hurtful for me to make me feel like I don't even want to fuck with nobody like that no more.
Yeah.
Right? I've had to then get out of that shell because I'm like, well, that's just not who I am. And so I can't let someone else, the way they treated me, dictate how I work and treat other people.
Right.
So I had to get out of that. But for a moment, I'm just like, man, fuck that shit. Like,
That's
I can't.
cold. That's
like,
cold game.
Like it's
Yeah.
like just think of someone that you look up to just really fuck you over. Like talk about you,
Right.
take things away, like deals away from you. They hear you doing shit, and then they talking to people like, oh nah, I don't trust them or this, right? They're just like, and then you come back and hear people come tell you like, oh, this person said this about you, right? And it's just like, why the fuck would you do that? Like that's not cool.
Because they broke.
But it was just like, because it's just like you, the jealousy fact of it, right? And it was just like, it really scarred me for a moment. And so it was just like, it was really hurtful. And so like now, like we've talked and like became cool, but I still don't like rock with that person like that because it's like you show me your true colors.
That dynamic shifted for sure.
For sure.
Like you even got conversation for them. But like Dari said, like that, it really has to, you gotta think about it like, man, this ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yep.
If a person moving like that that's on them.
Yeah.
Like period.
Yeah.
Like,
And sometimes just God moving you out of that situation, right? Like think about how you've grown since then because you were getting comfortable in that situation and grow and still trying to grow and expand, but you had to push yourself in a whole different way when that relationship ended.
Yeah.
And that led you to right here. So like in the grand scheme of things, that was already written into your story that person was supposed to be temporary. And hopefully they can learn from that because look where they at now, right? So yeah, people just weird.
Yeah.
what
I
is
had a
meant for
comment.
evil.
What's that?
I was saying, what is meant for evil will be used for good.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Glenn yesterday because I was upset about something, and a lot of it was like, I want my flowers from like whoever this person was, and I was
Right.
like, yo, I work too fucking hard. Like everybody gonna give me my flowers.
Yeah.
And he was like, do you want the flowers if they're dead? And I was like, oh shit, I don't want them no more.
Right.
But that was
do
like,
you want the flowers if they're dead?
if they're dead, it's like, do you still want someone to give you the flowers even though they're dead? Like, what's use of a dead flower? So what he's saying is like, do you really
Oh, the
care? Do
flowers
you
are
really
dead.
care about what that person, like
Okay.
them giving you props when it's
Okay.
not genuine or it's
Right.
really not
Don't
even
really
like
mean it.
they
Yeah.
matter.
Okay. I get that. It went over my
That's
head
dope.
at first.
Like, you get-
So I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay. But how do you deal with that? Like what? I'm an entrepreneur. I lose a friend, right? And I don't think that's talked about enough. Like we talk about like relationship breakups
Yeah.
and shit like that, but people don't really talk about friendship breakups. And that can be really hurtful. Like how do you deal with that? I think I'll go to you first, Frank. Because as we are, I don't know, are we friends or acquaintances? Let me know. I don't know.
Right.
I don't
You
know.
been using that word.
Was you trying to tell me something? No, but I consider you a friend. But as a friend, like I look at you as someone that has great perspective. And I look at you as like life coach form, right? And so I want to ask you first, like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with a loss of a friend? Because that can be heartbreaking too, right? Like we can have our heart broken by our friend and not just a relationship as boyfriend girlfriend dynamics.
Yeah.
Like what would like your advice be?
Again, I think it starts with the definition, defining like, was this person really a friend? And you have to define friend for yourself.
For sure.
And I think that's the difference too, is we walk around using terms and realize like I have a different definition for friend than you have a different definition for friend or for loyalty or for whatever it is, right? And so we have these different definitions. And so then so once we start there and we define what the friend is, then once an event happens or separation, we get to first acknowledge that there is an event that's happening. And then what are we making the event mean? Okay. I think that is part of like huge. Like, what are we making this mean? Right. Yeah. And, you know, if you from a faith base, right, like Dari said, like, oh, this was part of my story. Like, you can make that mean something.
For sure.
And depend on what you make it means, depends on how you use it. Because stuff just gonna happen. Like, we all gonna experience some of the same. That's the human condition, right? We all experience the same thing. But the difference is, what am I making it mean? And how am I using it? How can I make this useful as I move forward? Is it going to hold me back? Or do I say, hey, maybe I need to move like this. I need for folks to check these boxes before I consider them a friend. To your question, right, do we consider, so for me, my friends, I have probably 5 friends. Yep. Like 5 friends, and these are people I know.
Yeah,
right. No, for real, like, right.
You gotta take that.
So associates are really high, right, on my list. So they're not friends. Friends I consider are almost family. Like I would bring my kids to my friends, right? You would bring your kids to me as a friend. You wouldn't bring your kids to me. I probably wouldn't bring my kids to you. So we super high. Like associate is a friend, but that's not like family to me in my definition, right? Even though I would say Terry's my friend, but in my reality, Terry's my associate. You're my associate, right? Super close,
for sure,
but not. I wouldn't family wise, right? Those are my friends. They know, they see me good, bad, ugly, indifferent. Ain't never felt no type of way. Yeah. Right? I can call them for money right now. I can go to their house and stay right now if I needed to. Those are like friends to me. But back to the other part of the question is like, how are we using that? Like, is it serving me? How did that event serve me? Because we get into our feelings and then we start making up, you know, what did I do? How did I feel? How did I contribute to this situation? And that's where it puts us at a disadvantage. Okay. Once we can separate the emotion of it and understand, like, all right, this is what I want it to mean. Yeah. And when that's the choice.
You have to go through that grief.
Right.
When you lose a friendship. The friend I lost, my best friend, was like how you described your friends, right? It was family. This was my son's godmother. Like, we knew each other's family. We were tight, and I had to cry. I had to be upset. I had to reflect, and I had to constantly reflect. What was my role? How hard was this for her? Like, I know that girl. I know she talked about this with her therapist for a good month before she made that decision. Right. I know she prayed about it. I know she talked to other people about it. And that allowed me to respect her decision. It didn't matter if I agreed with it because I knew her enough to know that she went through all of these steps before making that decision. And it empowered me to know that if she made such a hard decision, I could make hard decisions. Yeah. And that gave me the courage to kind of make a lot of next steps in my life. So again, how do you use that loss to fuel you? And then a year later, how do I reflect on that? Right. And how do I describe the breakup? Because people going to ask, oh, how's so-and-so doing? how am I speaking on it? Am I speaking from a place of emotion?
Yeah.
Or am I reflecting like, oh, we don't talk like that no more, but she's doing amazing. I heard she's doing great. She'll give me life updates every now and then. We have same friend circles. So you have to really, you got to get through that grief part. That gets you past the emotions around like, this person could have been going through anything that caused them to make that decision in that moment that may not be reflective of who they are now. Right? So.
And I'm interested because I think, and I'll let Cam answer too, because I feel like it's different for guys and girls. Like I just feel like it's different.
Why is
like,
he gonna let me answer that, Terry?
You know what I mean? Like I just feel like they are invested in each other so much emotionally that sever feels different.
Mm-hmm.
Like we, like again, like I consider Cam the homie. Me and Cam been each other presents twice.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I'm okay.
Like
I'm okay with
physically. But like I think we build relationships differently. We view them differently from the male female perspective. So losing a friend as a female has to be like totally different.
Oh yeah, it was heartbreaking. I was like, I lost my best friend and left my husband a month later. Because I was like, if she left me after 10 years and all the shit we've been through, I could leave this nigga. Period. Period. Like,
you know whose
like,
fault it
for
was.
real.
Like, now he knows.
Like
Now
I
he
could,
knows.
but that's where the knowing the person, and when it's a true friend and you really know them, then you can reflect on that in a different way. But I agree, y'all friendships are just way different.
I definitely right. Dudes are like way more, and this was kind of a conversation I remember I had before about like bro code, right? Bro code is just like, and some of my friends got on me for saying shit, but it was just like okay, we're guys, we're friends, and it's like if she ain't your girlfriend, I ain't your wife, like she's up for grabs. But it's like this is a girl I liked and I was fucking on or whatever. But then it's like, oh, you kind of digging her too, and you got at her and you do what you do, and it'll just like we're supposed to accept that, right? As men, we're supposed to accept so much more because of like bro code over other shit.
What
And
bros
I
are
just
you hanging
like
out with?
listen, as from me from being in the streets, it's like the bros over hoes, right? That's a thing. And it's just like, but I actually like this girl. Some shit like that. But
You
it's like,
should have made her your
how
wife
could
then.
you? Or but I just use that as an example because I just think that obviously everybody is different, but it's definitely different for men and women because like dudes can talk to each other, talk shit, say hurtful shit, and it's supposed to be like, why you being so sensitive? Or like just joking. But it's like in the dynamics of women, it's like I wouldn't dare say like, dude, I'm like, look fat as fuck. Like, nigga, why you getting so big? Like this. But if it's a woman, like you can't we
about to fight now.
Yeah, it's like it's different. So to what you're saying, I definitely think that there's a difference between men and women. But I think that's a good segue because you said something earlier, and I kind of want to touch on that, and it's just loyalty. Loyalty look different for everybody. And I've had conversations with people about that, and I just be like, that I don't agree with that. And they're just like, well, you're not loyal, right? So I'll give an example of like I had in my group conversation, we were talking about like, I'm an entrepreneur, they're not. And so therefore it's like what I look at in the paths that I'm on as entrepreneurship is different from somebody who's not.
Right.
And so it's like someone comes to me and want to do business with me, but then my friend may not like this person, so they think I shouldn't do business with them. But then it's also like, well, nigga, this is how I feed my family. So it's just like I'm not building a relationship with this person. I'm just doing business with them. Right. And then also whatever the dynamics of y'all not liking each other, it's not like it's like I see him on spot and I'm about to kill him. Like I hate him so bad. But it's like y'all got some whatever little feud together, right? And so people will look at that as like you're being disloyal because you're working with somebody that I don't like really like, but you only have no thing of that. Right? So,
it's called professionalism.
Right. And
Come
so,
on, man.
but it's just like, how do you deal with that? Like, what's like, what does loyalty look like?
Like I hear you, and I sat up in my seat because this is my jam.
Yeah.
Just not loyalty in general, but like just the ideas that we create, right? The definition. And one of the things too, like it's 4 of us here, right? And we say loyalty. Like, what does loyalty mean to you, Dari? What are some characteristics of loyalty?
Loyalty, like if I think of characteristics, a person who's honest, a person who is going to communicate their needs, wants, desires, frustrations with me, a person who is going to support me in reaching goals if they are able to provide that support, and a person who gonna rock with me if I'm in some shit. Like if we're outside and somebody attacks me, are you gonna support and make sure that I'm good? Someone who is gonna speak kindly and highly of me and is not gonna allow other people to speak negatively on me. Yeah, I think those are just some of the things that like come to mind.
Cam, what would you say your definition of loyalty is?
I'm real big on honesty. If you don't agree with me, just tell me you don't agree with me. If you think I'm being stupid, just tell me I'm being stupid. If that's because I think too many times we expect people to just like agree with us because we just like, listen to me. So, example, my friend, the same one that I talk to like maybe every 4 or 5 months, him and his son came and hung out with us for a weekend, and he was like, "Hey, can you smoke me some bacon? Because I be smoking bacon." And he was, or these two at least. And I was like, "Yeah, bet." Well, then I got distracted doing all these other things, and like he had bought groceries, like all this stuff, because that's what he does whenever he comes. And he's just like, he pulled me to the side and he said, "Hey, I'm really trying not to be upset right now, but like you told me you were gonna make me some bacon, and it's been 2 hours now. I'm hungry." And I was just like, "Yo, my bad, bro. Like you're right. Like I'm sorry. Like let me pop the smoke around." But once he ate, he's like, "I really appreciate you like not like coming back at me, right? Because you got two." I mean, he was mad. He was like he was yelling at me, but he was close, and I was just like, "You're right. I told you I would do something. I didn't do it. I appreciate you communicating with me. Let me now rectify that thing that you told me that you're holding me accountable."
Right.
And, and then later it now becomes a joke, right? It's like, "Oh, yo, get the bacon before old boy flips out." but that's what I expect. Like, I don't need you, like marinating on some bullshit because you don't have enough confidence in yourself to just speak. Anybody who stands around me in my circle, you either have the confidence to speak or you will no longer be in my circle because I have no time, no patience. And I already got 5 other children and a wife at home that I have to worry about their feelings. If I hurt yours, tell me, but I'm not worried about it on a day-to-day if I'm just being 100.
Loyalty, right? You saw some similarities in there, right? Honesty was big. T, what's your definition of loyalty?
Well, that's a good one. I don't know. Honestly, if I think about loyalty, I think about someone that is there for me, someone that if I tell you something that you're not going to tell someone else, right? I can trust you with information that you're not going to go back out, right? I think that's really big to me because I've done like told someone something and then they in a group setting they brought it up and it'd be like, "Nigga, what the fuck? I just told you." Like, what is that? Right? So something like that. Also being from, Oakland, being in the streets, I think the loyalty comes with like violence. Growing up, you get into fights or people got beef with you. Somebody trying to jump me, are you gonna have my back? Or if somebody trying to speak bad on me, are you gonna like stand up for me? So I think loyalty goes to, stuff like that. I think it's just like trust. Like, can I trust you? Right. And to me, that's like really loyalty. And like I gave an example earlier of like, a friend funking with somebody and not want them to do business. And shit to me like that is like whatever. Because I feel like I'm cool enough to be around or do shit around people that I may not like the most and it just don't bother me.
Right.
Right. So stuff like that ain't that big unless it's just like somebody that's just being, it's like on site type of like real hostile situation. But I just think trust. Like, can I trust you? Can I rock with you? Can I tell you shit? Can I come to you? You can come to me. Like, to me, that's loyalty over all the other stuff that people try to put on. I think people put too much on two. People are unrealistic of what
Yep.
loyalty is, right? The expectations and stuff. And I think that's the problem because people aren't having a communication with one another of what their view is because we all just said loyalty and we have different views. And so it's like you have this view of loyalty, but you never communicated that with me. And so now I don't do what you expected. Now I'm unloyal, but it's like, well, nigga, I never even know you felt that way.
Right, and that's my point, right? Having that conversation, and for me, the definition, the way I define loyalty is you are dedicated to my best and highest good.
Yeah.
Simple. Period. So that might look like you telling me something I don't want to hear.
For sure.
That might look like you telling me to be quiet, but that also might look like you having my back.
Yep.
Even when I'm wrong in certain situations, right? And so being able to have that conversation comes with a level of, certain relationships. But my point was, like, we all have pretty different definitions. And so when someone does something and we consider disloyal or we do something that they consider disloyal, the friendship is supposed to be able to say, hey, you did this, you did that, this is what it looked like to me. Because when we get upset at people, it's because they've gone against our definition.
Yeah.
What? Or because we expect them to sacrifice. Like, I don't expect, you don't always have to sacrifice to be loyal. In my profession, people talk shit about me all the time. Do I expect Terry to correct every single person? No. That's a sacrifice. That's putting himself in the line of fire because somebody feels some type of way about me.
Right.
So it's like you have to be flexible and realistic. Like, ain't nobody perfect and gonna always just fit into this little box.
Right.
You want them to fit into, and you didn't put yourself in harm's way for me. That's selfish.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. You said something, Frank, that I think I want to kind of touch on. Like having someone's back even when they're wrong. Like,
That's interesting.
And
but some people feel that way, right? And I'll put myself out there, right? And I've had conversations. I have my cousin, his name is Slick. He's like real big on loyalty. And then my wife, right, is big on that. And to me, it's like, if I'm wrong, say something when people not around, and don't like say it when people in front of people.
Oh yeah, like don't play you out.
Right.
Yeah.
And so is it at times in conversations it just be like shit happen and it's like I don't fucking agree with you.
right.
Yeah.
Like I don't agree with what
Yeah,
you said or what you're doing. And so it's like, am I wrong for saying something?
Yeah.
Or correcting it? Or should it be like you brought up Snowfall? It's the scene of Snowfall when he took over the dude corner and then he got his back like whatever. He did it. Shit happened.
Leon was out
you
there
took
running
over
him
Leon.
back.
Leon took over his corner and he that's Leon, that's what happens. But then later in the car, he like, I'm
ready to
mad
have it.
shit.
Right.
Like, I don't give a fuck. Like, you mad way up, nothing to talk.
Right,
Like shit
right.
like that. And like,
Right.
you gonna apologize to this, but he didn't check him in front of him.
yeah.
Right.
Right? But he did it behind his back and let him know, like, nigga, you wrong and you better go back and fix that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what is your take on that? Because I'm not always the one that can hold back in that moment. We're having a group discussion, and in this group discussion, you say something, and then my opinion is asked, and I'm like, I don't agree with you. But now you're mad because I don't agree with you in front of people.
That's different though, right?
That's a different context.
So let's bring it back to that game a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
I'm going back and forth with the coach. At the point when you was like, yo, just back up, stop. I knew what you were saying was you need to shut the fuck up, Dari.
Yeah.
Like you gonna be wrong if you keep going.
Yeah,
in that moment, you wasn't like you being wrong. You just like, hey, chill, right? So like in that type of situation, don't check me in front of the people. But you did what you need to do to stop it. That was still loyalty. But we've also had conversations where you disagree. It's different. It's not disloyal in a conversation to not agree. But if something popping off, that's where it's you stand your ground in person and we reflect on it later.
Yeah. My wife had this
just-
conversation with some coworkers because they were just like talking about like the wife husband dynamic. She's like, nah, if he says something in the moment, I'm going with it. As long as it's not like gonna cause us harm or whatever.
Right.
But if my husband says we're doing this in the moment, even if I don't agree with it, I'm doing it. And then later, behind closed doors, I'll be like, hey, that I really wasn't getting down with that. She's like, but in front of people, that is not my place to then do that because I have to have his back, and I expect him to obviously do the same for me.
Right. I think it always reminds me of like if you out in public and you know you got your girl popping off and she talking crazy and it's like 4 of them, it's like, you know what I'm saying? Do you have her back right then and there, or you be like, man, you got to shut the fuck up because it's 4 of them and 1 of me. You know what I'm saying? Like in that type of scenario, like to me, that's like you gotta know how to. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. A lot of times, because you know I'm of the mindset if I can't correct you, I can't protect you. And so
for sure.
if you just think I'm supposed to agree with you, just because, yeah, publicly maybe sometimes,
For sure.
but you know what I'm saying? Like it's definitely a conversation you have. Certain conversations you have outside of the situation. Because again, it's situations where emotions is high, right? What the brother DB say, when emotions is high, logic is low.
Yeah.
So that ain't the
Intelligence is
time to
low.
have that conversation. But we might need to, you know, stand toe to toe for the time being.
Yeah.
That correction though is not having their back,
Right.
right?
It's actually having
it
their
is
back even
exactly,
more.
It is having
Right.
their back. So that's where it's what you said is how you do it and how you handle it. In that moment when he was like, Dari, stop, pull me back. That was correction
Right.
in that moment, but it wasn't like actually he didn't stand on the other side and was against me.
And yelling.
It was
Right,
like I'm
right.
gonna help you by helping you help yourself.
Yeah,
Right.
I
And
love
that's what that correction is.
Right.
That correction is loyalty. That is support.
Good. I like that. Great conversation. I'm gonna ask this, and then we can kind of like start winding the conversation down. I had to figure out like in having 4 people, like the conversation is good, and then you be thinking of all of these questions and scenarios, but you can't get through them because there's like so many different people. So we're gonna figure this shit out though. But I'm really enjoying this with you guys.
Number one.
is let me ask this. Is losing friends or people on your journey, like, is it inevitable? Is it worth it? Because we see like celebrities and basketball players and stuff take their friends with them, but they don't understand they didn't have to put in the work to understand the journey to get to where they're going. Like if I'm an athlete and I practice every day and extra practices and games, I put my blood, sweat, and tears on the line, and then I make it, and you ain't have to do none of that shit, and I just bring you with me. You don't understand like what I took to get to where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right. So as an entrepreneur, there's sometimes a disconnect between someone who didn't put in the work and someone who did.
Yeah.
And so it's just like everybody can't come with you. And so is it like worth losing that friend? Because people will hold that against you. Like, nigga, you doing this, or you on this level and I'm back here. You didn't take me with you.
Right.
People be mad at that.
Yeah.
And so like, is it worth it?
So I had to do this when I was 19 or 20.
Mhm.
And it wasn't because of entrepreneur, it's just because like I was in the military and I came back home. I'm from the Bay. I got graduated in Sacramento, and I was somehow convinced this dude to rent his house to 5 19-year-olds. We was all in the house. I was being a goon. Like I was in the military. I was still out being a goon with all my friends from high school. And at one point, like, dude got stabbed in our house. We got like all types of stuff. And they called the base and they was like, yo, your dude's out here being crazy. And they'd, say, hey, if you don't fix it, we're gonna bring you back. And I had to tell all my friends, like, I gotta move out. Like, you guys are about to ruin my future. Like, I wasn't going to college. I didn't play sports. Like, the military was my future. And I was no longer that same guy that I now talk to every 5 months. Held it against me for 8 years. Cut me off. He's like, you were my brother and you abandoned me. And I was like, I had to do what I had to do for my life, bro. Like, I wouldn't have my life if it wasn't for that decision I made. And that was one of the hardest things I had to do. And I don't want to say funny enough, but like 3 or 4 of those dudes are dead now. One of them ended up almost going to jail. Another one got, so like the writing was on the wall, and I fortunately enough saw that writing and listened to the message enough to dip. And then as an entrepreneur, like it's the same thing. Like I lost 2 of my best friends within the last year and a half because one of them, same thing, was on the same old dumb shit he was on, and I had to call it quits. And then the other one is just, our visions are just different at this point in our lives. And it wasn't no malice. It's just like, we don't need to kick it no more. We don't need to talk. And that's okay. Like our paths has reached the end, and that's okay.
Okay.
It's hard. I'm like, as cool, calm, and collected. Thinking about it, like I'm one of them. I'm a super what I would call loyalist. Like I'm dedicated to people. My wife would say sometimes to a fault.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard for me to disconnect and disassociate from people at times that I probably could have done earlier. But just thinking about the story Cam told, thinking about the time where, East Oakland, young, early in the game and hanging out with cats that was doing it a little bigger than I was doing it. I remember a time we had, I'm playing football, I'm going to school, I'm in college, early college, and, we doing what we do, smoke a little weed, blah, blah, blah. We got, this was folk, everybody had weed. You could go to the store and buy weed, right? They take you in for weed back in the day, you know what I mean? And so we walk into the store and the cops pull outside of the store. We got weed on us. And so, they just harass and messing with folks as soon as they come out the store. So I tuck mine in the potato chips, right? Because I'm going to come out, they going to search me. I ain't going to have nothing. So I do that, come back. I got to run back to the store. I'm like, hold on, y'all, I'll be right back. I run back to the store, get my, whatever I had, put it back in my pocket. They like, why you go back to the store? I was like, but I put mine in the cuts. Like, they had a problem with that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking that's the smart thing to do.
3 steps ahead, bro.
Right. And so, we had this conversation like the next day, and they telling this story to this other dude who he couldn't let it go. So we lightweight about to fight. And so in that moment, I realized like, oh, okay, I get it. All y'all out here ain't got nothing going on. I'm a college athlete. Yeah. And so in that moment, whose house we was at was like my real good friend, my real good brother, who I realized like I gotta let you go for this period of time.
Right.
And so like that part was like it was really tough to be able to do. Right. But again, like we homies, he in a different space now. We don't talk as much, but we still friends. Yeah. But just being able to kind of disconnect and disassociate at times when you need to is real rough.
I never feel bad about cutting somebody off.
I know, Daria, she cutthroat, boy.
See, women be different. Women be different.
Right. Oh, your friend. She's like, that's not my friend. I'm like,
right.
Damn.
Listen, I don't hold a lot of friendships, right? But I don't hold a lot of friendships, and I also spent my entire 20s being a mother and a wife.
For sure.
And I learned that sometimes you have to put yourself first, and it's going to hurt. But when I had to step away from my businesses, I needed to do that for me to survive.
Yeah.
I didn't have the words to properly communicate to anybody about it, and I just did what I had to do. And it was like, you can't feel bad about doing something that you need in that moment, right? Because you needed it in that moment. And I was lucky enough to have a quality friendship to where we were able to maintain. Yeah. And then my business is still like, I'm still on hiatus from that. But I don't think you should feel bad about making the decisions that are for you, because when something is genuine and when it's for you, it's going to be there. I made a decision to choose my career. And when I got to a point, I called the same friend that helped me in business. Hey, I need you to come work with me. So I think that things are always going to play out the way that they're supposed to. And sometimes you have to let people go for that moment, not because of them, sometimes because of them. But you can't feel bad about it either way, because if you made the decision with the right intentions, do you?
Thanks.
I like that. I like to appreciate y'all time, y'all perspective. I think this was a really good conversation.
It was good.
And now I did this. I'm like, damn, I don't know how I'm gonna go back to doing what I want. Like, how do I even go back? Right. Any last words that y'all would like to say? Aspiring entrepreneur watching this, and it's just like, they're like, damn, I'm going through this right now, or I'm feeling some type of way, or just anything. Like, any last words y'all would like to give?
Yeah. The entrepreneurship journey is not linear. You're gonna have ups and downs. And I think as long as you're focused on continuously learning something new, whether you're in your business actively or on hiatus, don't be discouraged by the downs, and don't get too big-headed when you're on the ups.
That's dope. I would say if you're on the journey, you winning, right? And what a lot of entrepreneurs won't tell you is that a lot of it is luck. They, everybody has a formula. I did X, Y, and Z. A lot of it's luck,
Yeah.
but you have to be on the journey to be able to experience that luck. And success leaves clues, and failure leaves clues. But just it's all about you.
Mm-hmm. Follow up, man. The gold is in the follow up. I think too many entrepreneurs, they do that whole like, oh, they'll call me if they need me. Hell no. You need to ask Frank what I
Right,
do. We
right.
followed up how
Follow
many
up,
times, and now
right.
he about to record. I mean, one of our biggest contracts was I met somebody in an event. They said, sure, we'll talk. Didn't hear nothing. I found her on Google. I messaged her and she said, I'm so glad you messaged me. I lost your card. Can you meet tomorrow? Met tomorrow, $90,000 contract.
Nice.
All it took was an email. Hey, I just wanted to make, if you were still interested, let's talk.
Let me
But
borrow
like,
something real quick. Yeah.
I mean, that's all done now. You know what? That's all it is.
That money was spent. That was spent. I got it.
But like so many, I feel like that's something people don't talk about. It's like, yo, it doesn't matter how good your product is. Most people who are successful is because they put themselves in the conversation as absolutely much as possible. You're gonna tell me no. Like if Frank would have like just ignored me, I still would have messaged him.
Right.
And I'd be like, just tell me no. Because that's another thing too, is so people are so uncomfortable saying no nowadays, and or receiving the no's. That's another thing. Receive the no's. I recruited for the Air Force for a decade, and I got a lot of freaking no's, and it made me immune to it.
I would go with communication. I think that the number one thing that we've had in this conversation here is that you got to communicate. What does friendship look like? What does loyalty look like? What does I don't agree with and all of that, right? Only communication is going to really solve and help when we're in these situations. Like we have to communicate how you feel, your views and perspective. So I think just having communication is in this journey, whether you're going to stay friends or walk away, right? But the communication needs to be. So I'd like to thank y'all for being here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for this. This is dope. And I'd like to thank you for watching. I appreciate you for watching. You made it to this point. That means you really should already be subscribed to this video. So subscribe to this podcast, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Entrepreneur Experience. Peace.